Hey guys, welcome back to Kendi Beauty. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Natasha Denona My Dream collection. We're going to be doing a little bit of comparisons and a whole lot of looks, and yeah, I'm super excited to dive into this. I was not actually expecting to put this up today. It'll probably be really late by the time it gets up, but I was able to get it, my little hands on it. My Sephora did not have it in store, but I know some people's does, but I will link it. You can get it online. You can get it at Beautylish. I'm not the whole collection, but some bits and pieces you can get here, some bits and pieces you can get there. So definitely check out the links below. And if you're new here, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, tap the bell so you can be notified of all the new upcoming videos. And let's get right into this collection. Okay, so let's get into the details on this collection. The palette is the mid-size palette. It is made in Italy with a 24-hour shelf life. It retails for $69, which is a little bit more expensive than the normal mid-size palettes. I believe she used to sell them for $65. It says it's an eyeshadow palette. It includes a captivating constellation of shades inspired by the elements of life that illuminate and intensify Natasha's creative vision. My Dream eyeshadow palette contains 2 of Natasha's favorite existing shades. It also introduces 13 brand new shades, including a vibrant multi-chrome with a high-impact foiled finish and 2 sparkling duochromes that can also be worn as toppers. Whether she's wearing the signature smoky cat eye or elevating even glam, these are the shades and formulas Natasha loves the most. So we have the Blackest Black, which is a matte intense black, Aspiration, a matte dark penny, Brown Serenity, which is a satin medium cool brown, Carp TM, a matte medium dusty peach, Babies, a metallic light medium rosy nude, Instinct, a cream powder matte medium fuchsia, Thrill, a sparkling metallic duochrome, golden nude with pink shift, Unity, matte medium light pink nude, Risk, metallic medium maroon, Invention, sparkling metallic duochrome tangerine with bronze and gold sparks, Vision, a multi-chrome metallic shifts a green, pink, nude, and gold, Edgy, a cream powder, matte medium dark eggplant, Spontaneous, metallic light pearl nude, Nurture, a matte medium cool nude, and Familia. The impression that I got is that, you know, a lot of these shades are sort of similar to shades she's already come out with. I sort of see Nurture, and Carp DM. I've seen those in other palettes, I believe. Serenity, I guess, is supposed to be the same as the Star palette. Blackest Black is supposed to be a repaint shade as well. Honestly, when comparing these to other Natasha Denona palettes, I don't see many similarities. When I held it up to the retro, I feel like it's not the same. Same thing with the glam. If anything, maybe some of these shades, like in the Love palette, which I have to find. I still have everything boxed up. I did pull some, you know, some palettes to do comparisons on. This is the metallic shade, and I do have to say that this palette versus some of her other palettes definitely leans more towards that dense cream to powder formula. I feel like there's more shades that are sort of in between, and some are just the regular cream to powder than other palettes of hers. So that'll be interesting to try on the eyes. And then I did want to show you the face palette really quickly as well. I know a lot of people were thinking that this was similar to the Glam Face palettes, and I have to say that the formula in the Dream Cheek Trio of the cream blush powder and the cream blush is definitely a drier formula than her other cream blush formulas, which I actually prefer because I've had a little bit of difficulty in the past with some of her face palettes with that sort of hard panned. Let me show you, like in this one, see how it kind of gets hard panned? This is definitely a more creamier formula, whereas the My Dream is a drier formula with just a little bit of puttiness to it. Not very much, which like I said, I prefer, and I think that's going to be a dream blending it on the cheek. So very similar. This is the dark face palette, and then I also have the light face palette as well. And then I have some of her others. You know, I just felt like these were probably the most similar. So when looking at all 3 shades, the Light is on the bottom, the Dream is in the middle, and the Dark is on the top. They are completely different shades, and I do feel like the Dream is going to be more flattering on a medium, light medium to deeper skin tone. It's just got sort of a cooler, deeper tint to it, and I feel like right around here, which we're going to try out in a minute, it's going to be really pretty. And then I did want to just compare the highlight shades, and I feel like all of Natasha's highlights, like they all are that champagne. I mean, I probably have a gazillion. Now this pan right here in the middle is that creamier formula, which is interesting. And then we have the Dream Glow, which actually, touching this, is kind of a putty finish as well. Yeah, so this is a putty, and then this is more of that, like the liquidy balm. Okay, so here's these two from the Dream, and then I just want to swatch it next to this one, which this formula in the face palette is definitely like a dry formula, so I don't feel like they compare, but looking at the colors, they're like identical. But formula wise, they're definitely different. And then let me just, I don't think the dark one's gonna be a similar shade at all, but let's just swatch for, yeah, okay. So, I mean, really, the Dream is definitely lighter, and it's a different formula, whereas the highlighter in these is definitely a drier formula. That being said, I have had mine for a year, but I don't remember them being the putty-like formula. However, I feel like we always get these same shades, and I would really be excited if one of these days Natasha decided to switch it up and like blow us away with like a duochrome shift highlighter or something like that. And then the face palette retails for $48, which I feel like is a little bit more on the pricier end, but you do get 3 huge pans. It is made in Italy, and it does have a shelf life of only 18 months, but I do feel like that's because we're pretty much getting all putty sort of cream hybrid formulas. This is definitely the driest, but as you guys can see, that's still like a putty-like finish. It almost reminds me sort of like a Super Shock or the Be Perfect. And then the one in the middle is definitely like more of a balmy sort of like Wayne Goss formula almost. And then the cream blush is definitely like a drier putty formula. It's just a tad bit cream. It's mostly a dry formula. Okay, so like I said, I'm just going to do a little bit of comparison swatch with the Vision shade, because quite honestly, I know people are like, oh, it looks like the retro, it looks like this. I don't think this palette looks like anything. It's very smoldery, it's very vampy and va-va-voom, and I just don't think, in my opinion, it comes close to duping really anything. We do know though that 2 of the shades are repeat shades, and some of these shades are maybe similar to repeat shades but reformulated. So that is what we sort of know. But I do want to just swatch Vision again, because I'm going to compare that to some other swatches and some other palettes. Okay, so I really like this because it's more of a green shift, and quite honestly, I don't know, like it leans very magenta plum and then very green. I don't know that I have a shade that really is this exact, not formula, but this exact color or blend or whatever chrominess, you know, madness as this color. It's very shifty. Okay, so I did want to just compare it to this shade, which again, the formula is different. I feel like this leans toward more of like a Cliona Divina formula, whereas this one, you can see it's a lot more purple and it has more of a putty-like texture. I'm not good at swatching this stuff on camera. And then, yeah, so the Dream is more of that orangey plum shift, and then the Trio Chrome is definitely more of a purple, and you don't get quite the same green shift. I did also want to compare it to Sexta Terrestrial. I feel guilty even saying that. From the Pat McGrath as well. Just to... So that is actually a lot greener, whereas the Dream is more of a lime green. The Sextraterrestrial is more, it's more of a burnt orange and then like forest green. And I wanted to compare it to the Sydney Grace Twisted shade because I feel like they honestly might be the most similar. Okay, nope, that one's more purple. Because the Divina is definitely more green red, whereas the Dream is more of a like yellow, orange, lime green. And I know the Cliona is going to be more sparkly and more of a like sparkler formula, but I am going to go in with this shade from the Juvia's Place palette. Do you guys remember this one? I don't think this is going to be similar at all, but you know, while we're here, we might as well. Okay, so yeah, honestly, I think that the Pat McGrath is probably the most similar because it's got that orange. It's just a little bit more intense, but really none of these are exactly the same as Vision and the Natasha Denona, so that's pretty interesting because I was thinking, oh, it's just another multi-chrome. Well, it's a little bit different. Okay, so now the moment we've been all waiting for, we're going to get into some looks. First, I'm going to go in with this shade. I'm going to be using my Moda brushes and my What's Up Beauty brushes. I'm going to go into the shade Edgy. And I'm just dusting that all over. One thing I really love about Natasha formula is that it's very buildable, so you can sort of go in light and then build yourself up as you go along without it getting too like crazy and, you know, bold. Now I'm going in with this shade right here called Unity. And now I'm going to go in with Instinct right here. Give the outer corner a little bit of depth and dimension. And now with my finger, I'm going to go in with the shade Thrill, which I believe is supposed to be one of the like duochrome toppers. It does have a sort of a rose pink shift to it. All right, and so that is that look, just very like everyday, pretty, you know, nothing too much. Okay, so now on the other side, we're going to go in with this shade Edgy again. And I'm going in with my finger first because I do really want it to be pretty bold. And then I'm going to blend it out with a brush. And I'm just going underneath and smoking that same color. We're just using one shade so far. So you want like an easy one and done look. Bam, there she is. All with just this shade Edgy. Beautiful, sort of smoked out plum vibe. And then I'm going to cheat a little because this is going to kind of count as another look. But I'm going to go in now with this shade right here for our third look, Invention. And I'm just going to tap that like right in the middle. Just like that. And then you can go back in with Edgy if you want to do like a halo, you know. And that's another thing with Natasha palettes, is like everything just layers so well, effortlessly blends, and you don't really have to like think of very much. You can just sort of play around. Okay, now on to the other side. I'm gonna go in with we're gonna go in with Instinct. And I don't care what anybody says, these formulas are not dupeable. You cannot dupe these. You cannot dupe this palette. It's like she combined some of her other, like, it's a different sort of, some of the formulas are the regular cream to powder, but some of them I feel like are a hybrid, and I'm really liking it actually. I did not expect that I was going to really care for, like, I honestly did not want to get this palette in the beginning. So I'm just going all over with Instinct because it looked a little bit more cool toned, a little less like interesting online. Now I'm going in with this shade right here called Aspiration, that brown shade. And I'm just kind of smoking that all over. Okay, now I'm just scooping that same Aspiration shade underneath with that same Moda brush. I'm going to dip it a little bit back into Instinct. I just want to add a little bit of warmth to those outer corners really fast. Honestly, I feel like this could be like a look by itself, just with Aspiration and Instinct. It looks beautiful. But I am going to go in with this shade right here called Risk. Whew. And I'm just gonna, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. So I thought the Tarte was my favorite palette for fall, like new release palettes. Of course, little Natasha Denona has to like come my way. Oh my gosh, I really was not expecting to like this palette, and I'm literally in love with this palette right now. Wow. We haven't even put on lashes. Okay, so what are we up to, like 5 looks now? All right, I'm gonna take this off, and we gotta do our final look. It's like midnight, you guys. I gotta get to bed. I could play with this dang palette though forever, and I was not expecting to like this the way it is. I could do like 5 more neutral looks. So, I mean, spoiler, you probably know what I feel about this palette already, but let's go in for our final look. Okay, so now for our final look, I did go in with some Linda Hallberg Mood Crayon just because it's sort of a base. I want to like play around with this multi-chrome vision and do something a little bit different. And Natasha Denona does like mix, and usually will like put eye pencils to sort of like smudge and do as a base. So I figured, you know what? I would try it out today with this palette. I'm going in with Edgy again. And I'm just putting that all over. I'm having so much fun with this palette. Can't you guys tell? Like, I'm just like, let's do this, let's do that, let's play with things that aren't even in the palette. Oh. So now I'm gonna go in with Blackest Black. I'm just gonna put that on the outer corner and smoke it down. And now on the inner corner, I'm going to go in, well, like the inner crease area, I'm going to go in with Instinct. Now I'm going in with a little bit of Aspiration, just sort of to connect everything together, make it look a little bit more blended and not so much a crazy smudge fest. Okay, so now the moment we've all been waiting for. Gonna go in with Vision. All over the lid. Just sort of tapping it in. Okay, so this is sort of the final look. We're almost done. We have to just go in. I just want to go in with this face palette really quickly. Gonna go in with my Moda brush, and honestly this kind of looks like a bronzer on me. Very soft and subtle. Yeah, just a beautiful like everyday natural blush. I like that. Still getting a little bit of hard pan, but I do like this formula better than her normal cream blushes, which are a little less dry, more putty. Like, this is definitely a drier formula, and I'm liking a lot. I do really like how this blush is just seamlessly blending into bronzer. Like, it looks flawless. You can't even tell like I have bronzer and blush on. Now I'm gonna go in with the Dream Glow right here. And now right over that, I'm gonna go in with this. I mean, it is like really, really wet. I actually really, really like this middle. I feel like you can use it, you know, you could put this on the bottom layer and then put the powder or powder one on top. Neither one of the highlights is like a dry powder, which I actually love. I mean, can we guess what our final thoughts are? Like, I was not expecting, I honestly wasn't even gonna get this palette. I just thought it looked kind of boring, nothing spectacular. Like, I didn't hate it, but I was just like, eh. I'm so glad I got this palette. I just think it's beautiful, and I feel like I don't have like a luxe palette for Halloween, and I really feel like that this is very fall, very, you know, sultry, vampy, Halloweenish. I don't know, I know other people are probably saying differently, but for me, like, I just feel like this is the perfect high-end luxury, like, fall Halloween palette. I am absolutely in love with this. Absolutely in love with this palette. Even the cream to powder, there was like a couple of hybrids that were cream to powder, but then there was also some like formulas you can tell she sort of just played around with that were sort of cream to powder, sort of, eyelash in my eye. Sort of cream to formula, sort of hybrid. Eyelash was stuck, sorry. So anyway, yeah, my final thoughts are, this is what happens to me. I'm like, oh, I'll just get the palette, I'll review it. I probably won't like it, I'm gonna return it. And then like I said, little Natasha walks in and it's like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite palette ever. What was I thinking? And I was like, oh, I have the face palette because I have the Glam Dark and the Glam Light. And I was like, oh, I have the face palette. Like, I'll just return the face palette. No, Kendi, like, I love the formula of these highlights. I really, really do. Even though it's the same type of shade that she always does, that sort of champagne-y, gold, pearlish kind of shade. I wish she would do more of like a true pearl or a true ivory, like something a little bit more on the silver white side. But the formula on this palette is amazing. It's my favorite face palette from her I've ever gotten it. So I have a lot of her face palettes. So I guess I won't be returning that either because I'm so broke. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to like the palette. I'm not going to like the face palette. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Anyway, I would say I'll wait for the VIB sale. I don't know. I think this is the perfect palette for this time of year. I will link it down below if you guys want to get it. I know some of you already said you were planning on getting it. It's available at Sephora, Beautylish, and her site. I just think if you're gonna get it, now is the time to get it because it is a mid-size. It's not her $120 palettes. And like I said, it's just like the perfect palette for right now for this time of year. So I highly suggest you go get it. It's amazing, especially if you're somebody like me who likes like a smoky, vampy, like, you know, just the depth is there with this palette. The color combinations are there. I don't think you can dupe even like the multi-chrome shade. It's not dupeable. Like, I just feel like it's so pretty. This palette is so beautiful. All right, I could go on forever. If you guys were new and, you know, hanging out with us today, make sure you subscribe to my channel, tap the bell so you can be notified of all the new upcoming videos. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.